Hey guys, you asked to see that spring bypass hack for flashlights, so I'm going to show it to you start to finish. And you don't need much to do this. A little tiny vise is always helpful, but optional, you know, if you got a way to kind of hold these things down without it. Soldering iron, I'm just using a cheap $6 Radio Shack one from the 80s or 90s. Just put it in a coffee cup, nothing expensive. You're going to need some solder. Some of this desoldering wick. You can see the length here is 1.5 millimeters. So that's very helpful. Tools are a minimum. Sometimes some small pliers. Nail clippers are very helpful. And sometimes split ring pliers. And maybe like some wire cutters. But you'll see we're not going to use half of that stuff. So step one, get your flashlight. Remove your tail cap, which we've already kind of done. And in most flashlights, you can see that the switch is held in by a retaining ring. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pop this into the vise. Of course, we're doing this on the wiggly table because it just wouldn't be a project if we weren't on the wiggly table. This is where a vise really comes in handy, is doing stuff like this. We'll tilt this a little bit towards you. You can see a little better. Hopefully that helps. And don't mind me while I kind of readjust the camera and check on focus every once in a while, guys, because I am not Stanley Kubrick. So I'm going to use something like these retaining rings right here. And most tail caps actually thread reverse, just so you know. So typically you can just kind of get them started. And once you get them started, you can just use the one and spin it out. Sometimes they're a little tricky, but like I said, sometimes they're reverse threaded, so you do have to pay attention to that. And once that retaining ring's out, we're going to loosen this up. You can see what's going to happen. The switch and the retaining ring have come out. We're going to set those aside. Just get you a little look at that real quick. Okay, soldering iron should be nice and hot. And what we're going to do is basically run a piece of that copper braid from the top of the spring down to the circuit board in order to bypass it, so we're not using this spring. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to lock this into the vise gently. We don't want to crush it. You got to remember the switch is just plastic. So, okay, that is in there. And that really just helps me, you know, because I've only got one set of hands, so that is kind of helpful. So, actually I want to turn this. Don't mind me while we reposition here, so you can see the joints a little better. I'm going to zoom in some. Okay. Now as I do this, it's likely to go in and out of focus, so I do apologize. Like I said, I am no Stanley Kubrick. So next, cut yourself an approximate piece of this soldering wick. So I like to start with a fresh end, so I just clip off a little bit. With the nail clippers, gives you a nice clean edge, and go with a little extra because you can you're going to trim it down at the end anyway. Alright, so we basically cut ourselves a little piece, and as you can see, it's much longer than the spring, but that's okay because it's a little room. You gotta remember, this is going to get mega hot when you solder it, so you're definitely going to want to have either a little extra to hold on to or a little pair of pliers. So that's prepared. One thing we are going to do is we're going to fold over that bottom end just because it gives you a little extra material to work with. And we're going to fold it at a 90 degree. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to snake this into the spring at the bottom. Alright, so first things first, we're going to kind of prep our soldering iron. And by prepping it, what we're going to do is put tiny little bit of solder on it. It helps it conduct some heat. Yeah, you don't want to breathe that stuff, guys. And what we're going to do is take some of that solder. We're going to glob it on the top here. Okay, and that is our platform where the braid is going to go on the top. We're going to take a little more on here. Oops, sorry, we're not on camera. Like I said, guys. Now this particular spring is actually soldered on 2 spots on the bottom, so I don't have to worry about it coming unattached. So what I'm going to do is pull on this a little bit. Ooh, we're going to use some pliers just to get it out of the way, and we're going to put another glob right there. Okay, so we have 2 globs. Put that back in the coffee cup for a second, and we'll see if we can zoom in a little better so you can see what I've done. Alright, hopefully the focus comes. Give it a second, guys. Focus. No, not gonna. Let's see. There we go. Alright, so you can see now we have a big glob of solder on the top and a glob of solder on the bottom. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the braid in inside through here, and we're going to connect to the bottom first. And how this braid works is it actually acts as a wick, and what it's going to do is it's going to suck that solder into it, and when it does it, it's going to hopefully solder itself to the bottom. This may take a try or two, guys, to be honest. This is not a perfect science, and I am no way an expert when it comes to soldering. So we're just going to kind of snake this into place. Like I said, we're going to take that kind of hooked end and put it on the bottom. Alright. Probably going to have to hold that in place with the pliers as we solder. So this is the hard part, is actually getting the braid in place. So what I tend to do is just kind of jimmy it into place with the so it's kind of right on the edge of that blob. Then we're gonna yeah, I should have had the soldering iron ready. Another glob of solder on the iron. That does help heat it up and gives you a little extra solder to work with. So, okay. Now let's try to do this. Okay, pretty sure it adhered. Yep, it did. I'm going to go back and try and get a little more solder on there. Clean that up. See, I got a little bit kind of hanging off like a filament. We're just going to melt that. Okay, now we have a nice, and as you can see, it's in there. It is not a ton of solder holding it in place. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring a little in there and let it wick some more in. There we go. You can see we got a little bit of solder right there. That's fine. That'll probably just peel right off. Now we'll get it off later, but now we have a very strong connection on the bottom, and that is right connected right to the board. So, okay. Now what we're going to do is wrap this over. You see we have that solder joint there, that little bit of solder. We're going to wrap this over. Hold it over with our one hand, and I'm left-handed, so it makes this a little more complicated with this camera angle. And this braid is going to get really hot, so I have to work really quickly. So, and all we should have to do, put a little fresh solder on here. And remember, the solder helps with conductivity, and we'll make it a lot hotter. So, ooh, hot. All right, and we should be done. Give that a second to cool. And we're gonna touch it up again. A little more solder. Okay, we should go. See, we undid it. That can happen. Okay. Okay, we're gonna hold this with the pliers. That's what I think we need to do is get that tension on there. There we go. I think I'm happy with that. Alright, so we have a good connection. You can see. I'm going to turn that a little bit. So you can see that's a good solder connection on the top. And the bottom is good as well. I don't know if we can zoom in any more. Try, focus, as that helps. No, I don't think we're gonna focus, guys, sorry. A little more. And, oh, we're gonna make it. Sorry guys, I need a new camera pretty bad. There we go. Alright, so you can see we got that on the bottom, that on the top. So what we're going to do now is test it. Make sure these are going to hold. Okay, the spring, there's enough slack in there so it can compress. And none of the solder is affecting the compression, which is what we want. Okay. So from here, we're going to clip the excess with the toenail clippers. Ba-ba. There we go. And that's it. Simple, easy. Let me grab an 18650 and we're going to test this thing out. Sorry guys, I'm prepared. You know me. Can't do anything. I am not good with filming, let's just put it that way, guys. Alright, so we're going to remove this. Actually, we don't even need this. We're gonna set this on here. We're gonna, sorry I'm off frame, I always do that. Okay. That's in. We're going to drop the, I don't even know if I'm focused right now, guys. Okay, we're going to use the split ring pliers. And we're going to wiggle this into place. And remember, this one's reverse thread. They're not all reverse threads, so. Okay, now that's in. I'm just gonna use one of these and spin it around real quick. Okay, that's in there nice and snug. All right. So now we're going to put the flashlight back together and pray I didn't make a jerk of myself. And I didn't. Let's zoom out. Alright, there you go. That's the spring bypass. Very simple, very easy. And you can do the same thing as well. Same process with the driver. As you can see, there's a little spring in there. Much more challenging, but same process. You do it the same exact way. You take out the retaining ring, pull out the driver, and do the same exact thing, just in a different order. So I hope you enjoyed. That's it. That's the spring bypass from start to finish.